In our top story tonight, the parties to the National Conservation Commission retrenchment talks will return to the table on Monday to take a closer look at the names on the list and how those people were selected to be sent home. And all parties, according to Acting Labour Minister Senator Maxine McLean, are hoping to have the matter resolved then. Senator McLean was speaking to the media after chairing 8 hours of talks between the NCC's management and the National Union of Public Workers and Barbados Workers Union. She says a technical committee has been set up and will meet on Monday for further discussions.
They will meet after that with the Minister of Labour, should there be any concerns. The intention is to ensure that there is full understanding by the unions as to the basis on which those persons would have been terminated.
Senator McLean says there were 2 main sticking points for the parties, one of which was the interpretation of the civil service circular relating to the retrenchment policy.
The second one had to do with concerns about the nature and extent or the level of consultation. And therefore, given concerns about the level of consultation, the NCC has agreed to sit with the unions to go through those lists to clearly have people understand why persons were terminated.
Meantime, NUPW General Secretary Dennis Clark says Monday's meeting is scheduled for 2 o'clock and he too is willing to work towards a resolution.
I'm not second guessing the situation. We just say that we hope that there will be a conclusion.
Police are probing the stabbing death of an 18-year-old Black Rock St. Michael youth. Dead is Tristan Barker of Jackman Road, Wavell Avenue, St. Michael. Police say Barker was reportedly sitting on the step of a residence around 10 minutes after 9 last night when another young man accosted and apparently stabbed him. Barker died on the scene. One of his sisters told CBC that the former Alexandra School student had been informed only last evening that he'd been accepted at the Hospitality Institute to complete an advanced cooking class. Police say another teenager is in custody, assisting them with further investigations. Barker leaves to mourn 4 sisters and 2 brothers. Residents along Whitehall Main Road were given the scare of their lives in the early hours of this morning when a car ran into an abandoned house along that stretch. One resident, who did not want to be identified, said she was just going to bed when she heard the car passing on the road. Describing the car's impact as sounding like an explosion, the resident said it's the second time in about a year that such an accident has happened.
I heard a car zoom around the corner because we heard everything that crossed. It just zoomed and next time I hear was bang. So I ran outside because I know that things just happened here. I ran outside. When we first got outside, we could not ascertain where the car was. I thought he was in Gully. I was one of the first persons out here. And then the car was passing. We had to spot the lights to see, and we recognized that it was under there.
The finance minister says there's no need to sanction Central Bank Governor Dr. Dilal Worrell over his reaction to a headline carried by the Nation newspaper regarding people being sent home from the institution and subsequent reports that the newspaper had been banned from the bank's events. The central bank has since, in a press release, denied that the newspaper was indeed banned. Now, the finance minister says he thinks the 2 sides should meet with an independent arbiter if necessary to resolve the situation. Mr. Sinclair says the governor's concern at the end of the day was that there was no truth to the headline that 60 people were going home.
We have to ensure that we understand that whilst we have to have freedom of the press, we also, and the press demands access to information and transparency and so forth and so on as well, we equally have to ensure that certain standards are kept in relation to the work that journalists and reporters do and newspapers publish, because they really do have a way of impacting on people negatively, especially if it is not entirely accurate.
Mr. Sinclair says there has been no discussion on whether or not the governor's contract will be renewed. The local medical fraternity is concerned about the growing threat alternative medical advice is posing to the traditional practice of medics. This assertion from Professor Emeritus at the UE Cayfield Campus Faculty of Medical Sciences, Dr. Henry Fraser. He says such operations are generally income-driven, with the practitioners sometimes having little or no regard for the patient. He made the comment during the official opening of the 75th BAMP UE Continuing Medical Education Conference at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre.
Our great University of the West Indies, the standards we set and the training that most of us here have received are under constant daily threat by a new society which is seduced by the glamorous claims of many forms of alternative practices and by the claims of business-oriented medical schools whose raison d'etre or reason for existing is business first, and medicine is merely the business of their business.
Professor Fraser urged doctors to continue to study their craft since patients are oftentimes one step ahead of the doctor in diagnosing their illness.
In spite of 2 or more CME conferences a year, many doctors, as well-meaning as they might have been loath to avail themselves of opportunities for renewal. But after 30 years of BAMP and UE calling for us to come in line with best Western standards, we have only now got the government to set standards and requirements for continuing medical education. In today's internet world, we have to keep learning because our patients are often one step ahead of us. You can't fool them, you cannot bluff, you cannot pretend to know what you know not. So never, never be tempted to cover up or pretend to know if you don't.